Hi there, welcome to Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Aries energy. Ooh. And we're going to do this 10 card spread. And then we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because life's about learning lessons. And, in our more shadowy Aries energy, we can be more caught up in the world, more caught up in ourselves, our lust, our greed, our pride, our ego, our laziness, our self-indulgent nature. And other people have learned some lessons in life and they've kind of shed some old layers that, those can be issues that we all deal with to some degree, but like as we grow older, we kind of shed some more immature layers of ourselves. Hopefully not as much of needing just to be about ourselves or our own wants and needs, but some people have learned some of those lessons more so than other people. So this could be something particularly that people who are an Aries sun sign or have significant Aries placements could deal with and struggle with, but even if you're not an Aries sun sign, we all tap into Aries energy, and it's something that we can all struggle with. So, it can get down to ultimately what motivates and inspires you to heal, grow, mature yourself to your full potential, work through things that manipulate you, or would you rather not do that and make your life about yourself or things of the world, or indulge in things and not really do love, not work through your past pain and heartbreak? And sometimes we can get in more mismatched relationships, and we just need to see the truth of it. So, I view this card as the overarching reason for the reading, which is the healing card. That's an option for all of us. It kind of represents the Four of Swords card, which is Libra energy, of having gone through some experiences, and are we willing to see the truth? Who are the people I could have worked with and have the opportunity to work with, I'm currently working with, who are more just and fair and balanced and stable and loving and nurturing and supportive? And who are the people who had the opportunity to be that, but they chose instead, got the idea that they were going to do something else? Maybe be defensive or prideful or immature or controlling or something, right? And then at the end of the story, we have the relaxation card in reverse, which also kind of reminds me of the Four of Swords, which can be about resting and healing. Sometimes we have to take time to reflect on these issues and to heal from some issues. And then when we're done, and with the nature card up here above it, well, we kind of got into a place. Nature would be about feeling in balance within yourself, which is also kind of like Libra energy. In our Libra energy of self, do we feel at peace within ourselves? Do we feel balance within ourselves? Do we work cooperatively with other people to maintain balance in relationships? Do we do that because of truth and love, or just because we want them to keep working with us, And same for the other people in our life. Why do they do what they do? What drives them, motivates them? But some high vibe people are done healing. They have worked through rejection and kind of maybe being in their ego about some things and people in their life where things didn't work out the way they wanted. And they've maybe come to a place of peace, of accepting that, everyone is where they're at. Everybody's kind of driven and motivated by what they're driven and motivated by, has their idea of what they think is just and fair. And sometimes we're not on the same page, but the high vibe people work through it to get out of their ego about it. And if they see the truth and they see where they needed to heal and grow and mature themselves, they heal and grow and mature themselves. They take the lesson and they move on. They also see the truth about some of the people they were in a relationship with, who was more bossy, controlling, prideful, egotistical, wasn't just, wasn't fair, lived more from their mind than their heart, was more about themselves, aren't very maybe warm or loving or nurturing, try to maybe manipulate people. That can be a rejection tactic. I have an idea. And that's kind of sometimes when you see the true nature of other people, that their true nature of what they think is just and fair is, I am going to not try to heal relationships with people. I'm not going to be just and fair. And sometimes we can be in relationships with people for a long time, and some people can keep trying to suppress their true nature, and then their true nature kind of comes out, and then we can feel hurt and rejected, but sometimes we realize they weren't really being authentically who they were presenting themselves to be to begin with. So I didn't miss an opportunity like in love. The rejection card is reminding me of the Four of Cups and Cancer energy. Some people really aren't driven and motivated by love, but they use their emotions manipulatively and kind of live more from their mind than their heart to try to create the illusion that they really are motivated and inspired by love. But then as you move forward in situations, and it kind of really gets to be where, are you going to take that cup of love and we're going to move forward? We're done healing. We've both done some work within ourselves and we're ready to move to the next phase of life. And sometimes that's when we find out maybe they really weren't who they said they were. So we have two cards on the board that aren't showing themselves. And in the middle, and right above the middle card, we have the body and we have the organizing, and both those cards remind me of Virgo energy, which again can be about what people's truth is, what their long-term goal is. Is it more about the status, the ego, the image, to be in a relationship, more about themselves, more about indulgence or the world, or are they motivated? Fire sign energy is about being motivated. Are they motivated to do the inner work that they might need to do to deal with some issues? And kind of in the exercise, I don't know, kind of reminds me of an Eight of Wands, Sagittarius energy, which is about higher learning and education. Are they inspired to heal or are they not? And some people, it was kind of, sometimes people are just kind of like social climbers, where it's to get in relationships to kind of go play, maybe go in their fire sign energy, kind of indulge himself in, even in healing. I had relationships with people where I could have been more just and fair, truthful, honest, but I still got some lessons to learn, and they kind of maybe went on a journey thinking they were going to head towards a destination align and get justice, but if they didn't act in truth and love and weren't inspired by truth and love, they might find out that things aren't going to work out the way they wanted. So it kind of all has to do with our intentions. We have the relocation card, which again kind of reminds me of Sagittarius energy. Wanting to move forward in some way. Then we have the abundance card. You know, we are all inspired to probably get justice in the world. And then it depends in the abundance card, which is also kind of like Virgo energy. What is our long-term goal? What drives us to take action to try to heal relationships with certain people? Why do some people take action towards us, want to work together with us? Is it because we put in work and effort and we're motivated and inspired to be more just and fair and work together with people cooperatively? You know, even shadowy people like to work with people who are just and fair and loving and encouraging. But is that their truth? Is it more for the status, the ego, the image, just a place for them to rest within? But it's really not their truth. In between the relocation and the abundance card, we have this card not showing itself, which can be that we don't really know with some of the people in our life how they harness this energy, if they harness it in a more high vibe way or a more shadowy way. And sometimes we get more mismatched relationships. And a lot of times it doesn't matter, like if it's at work or in our community, we know that we're kind of different in different ways with different people and it doesn't matter. But with people who we thought we were going to move forward with and have this long term plan with, that's what kind of high vibe Virgo can reference. Sometimes we get more mismatched relationships and we harness this energy differently, and we can tend to think that other people kind of think the way we think, but really their truth in both Libra and Virgo energy can be different. And of course, in their Aries energy, what motivates and inspires them, what their long term goals are, what they think is just and fair. The painting card. So I kind of view the painting card as fire sign energy, aligning with your more hopeful, believing, creative, inspired, intuitive nature. And if you harness that energy in a high vibe way, and you kind of listen to your intuition and you're kind of motivated and inspired to not let your fear and your insecurity or your ego or the world manipulate you, you assume other people kind of view life that same way, but not everyone does. Some people reject their more creative, inspired nature because they are more motivated and work more with aligning with their more worldly nature. Like, nope, I kind of maybe got to be practical and logical, kind of a more shadowy, worldly Virgo, Taurus energy. In their fire sign energy, they're a little bit more motivated by these things of the world, believe they need to work with these things of the world in order to get the justice they deserve and to get the abundance they want. And they might not, they might reject listening to their intuition, even though their intuition could be telling them, maybe people have unique talent, skills, and interests that they could use that would make them happy if they kind of invested in their own particular unique talent, skills, and interest. But some people reject those things because they could be afraid it won't get them the stability or the security, right? Or they think they have to be more practical and logical. And that's when people can get in career fields that they don't even enjoy, and every day is like a workout that you maybe don't enjoy. Versus being in a job and a friendship and relationships with people you do enjoy being around and enjoy doing. And then it might take some work and effort, but you find it enjoyable, right? Other people could, she does have a smile on her face, but it could feel more challenging than people really were thinking, that they wanted. So, do we listen to our intuition? Are we more hopeful, believing in love? Why do we do what we do? We can get. The painting can also be where people had been working on something. It's kind of like painting the canvas of your life, writing the story of your life, trying to manifest something. And people could be doing this work within themselves that other people don't know about to kind of tap in with their more creative, inspired, intuitive nature, which maybe before they weren't doing because they were just more caught up in other things in the world and just didn't connect in with it. And now some people could be starting to connect in with it, maybe because of some situations going on in their life. And it could be making them really think about what is, I am the writer of my life. I do paint the story of my life. I pick and choose what colors I choose to, and people and thoughts and emotions that I choose to tap into, right? Who do and what do I want to keep investing my time, energy, and effort into? And some people could be starting to tap into listening more to their hopeful, believing, creative, inspired nature. And that is what can make someone feel very stable and grounded within themselves, which is high vibe Virgo energy, and then feeling balanced within themselves in Libra energy. And some people could see other people kind of moving forward, seeming to be inspired, seeming to feel very stable and grounded and abundant within themselves, and putting in some work and effort into things that they enjoy, maybe kind of seem to be in their element. And then when we're kind of in our element and we're in living our life in a way that's more aligned with our truth, being in jobs, friendships, and relationships with people that are loving and encouraging and supportive, that's when we can thrive, versus being and moving forward with jobs, friendships, or relationships where it does seem to look just and fair in the world and it has maybe stability, but it could lack kind of that fiery spark of really being more motivated and inspired, because people are loving, nurturing people. So it's nice to be around them. You like your job, you enjoy your life, versus feeling like we have to do what's practical and logical. And I think the people who like to be maybe more practical and logical, who don't like to maybe connect in with their more emotionally intuitive, creative, inspired nature, whose comfort zone could be to live more from their mind than their heart, or make their life more about themselves or these things of the world, they cannot like it when other people who maybe aren't willing to keep working with them seem to be more at peace, less manipulated by things. And it's like, well, why aren't you manipulated by what I'm manipulated? And why don't those things bother you? And why don't you let those people bother you? And why don't you make your life about these things that I make my life about? Why aren't you trying to get other people? High Vibe Virgo is also about kind of knowing your worth and value. Uh, Shadowy energy can be wanting to have look to other people to value you and appreciate you. And it's kind of the funny dynamic that kind of, until you kind of appreciate you and stand up for yourself and your truth and justice and fairness, and like, I'm not going to indulge people in their shadowy behavior or kiss their ass, or deal with people who want to be more bossy or controlling or immature. They might have status, image, money, look like they have justice in the world, and they think people should put in a lot of work and effort to kind of indulge them, maybe in a relationship, because they think they have this certain status or image, and you then should want to be in a relationship with them, and you should kind of indulge them in their shadowy ways of being. That's kind of their nature and how their truth and how they view life. And other people are like, yeah, no, that might be how you live your life and that might be your truth, but that's not my truth. And the painting card now is kind of like, we work with other people, but it's kind of like, I don't want to play with you, you know? And, Virgo energy can talk about taking time alone, um, to heal, to get balanced, to not let other people who might be more shadowy in some regard kind of throw you out of balance. No, I am not looking for you to validate my worth and value. Everybody's got free will. If I treat you in an authentic, just, fair, truthful, loving way, and you don't want to work with me cooperatively, you might be trying to throw me out of balance. And I'm just going to let you be you, and I'm going to see the truth that you have a certain way of acting and behaving and viewing life and choosing to live your life. And you obviously think that's just and fair. And I might not agree with that, but I might have you in my environment, workplace, or whatever. And then we have this card not showing itself, which is a sacred space, which can kind of be that, you know, not everyone, I protect my sacred space in a way where, again, if I think I'm just and fair and authentic and loving and encouraging and I don't have ulterior purposes, I'm not trying to manipulate and control people or dominate over people or think people should indulge me for some reason, I'm going to protect that and respect that kind of philosophy of life. So now that sacred space is kind of reminding me of Hierophant energy. And then with the four arms and the wrist locking, it's kind of reminding me of a foundation. And Taurus energy of within ourself is like the foundation that we build upon. And what we think is just and fair and what our truth is. And I am going to stand up and defend my truth, not let people throw me out of balance. I accept everybody's got their free will. And it doesn't, fire sign energy also can represent like our third chakra, like our life force energy. And it doesn't, that's all kind of superficial shit that happens in the world, and it can be really painful and hurtful, but it doesn't, out of out of love and my truth and my philosophy of life, I don't let it shake kind of the core of who I am. And I'm able to work through it, see the truth, deal with the truth, move on, not get in my ego about it. Maybe I don't have to try to fix other people. I don't have to try to get them to view life the way I view it. I don't have to point out, you know, I think it's kind of pointless to try to point out to some people if they knew that they were being rude or controlling or something, if they ever wanted to communicate that truth to you, they would. But otherwise, people can want to stay in denial of the truth and ignore the truth and reject the truth, reject being more just and fair, reject doing this inner work, aligning with their more hopeful, believing nature, and could be more about their more immature nature, self-indulgent nature, their status, their ego, their image, and don't even want to acknowledge the truth that for some reason they think they should be indulged in relationships. So unless they see it, there's no point in, I don't think, in talking about it, right? And some people that were inspired to do this work within themselves, I think some of those people have healed. They took this time of self-reflection to get more connected in with themselves, feel more stable and grounded within themselves, and now they're ready to go back out there in the world. And there's always going to be shadowy energy in the world. Our own shadow nature is going to try to work on us and stop us because our own shadow nature wants to be in the driver's seat of our life. And just like our shadow nature wants to be in the driver's seat of our life and be in more in relationship with us, there's other shadowy people who want us to be in relationship with them, but maybe only if we're in shadowy kind of energy. If we're a more immature energy, more worldly focused energy of indulgence or ego or image, or still trying to change other people, still up in our head about, well, those people were unjust or those people are unfair and I need them to like me. It's like, no, I don't need you to like me. you know, there's other people then who don't like it, because we, just like we have our dualistic nature, we have people in our life that we can enjoy and we could be in long-term friendships and relationships with if we wanted to be. But they want us in our more shadowy energy to some degree because they're in some more shadowy energy of their own. And then there's people in our life who are more hopeful and believing and loving and encouraging, not trying to manipulate us, not trying to tempt us in our lust and our greed and our pride and our ego. And either of those people, types of people in the world, can feel rejected by other people in the world that choose not to align with them, right? But the high vibe people get out of their rejection and being hurt and in their ego about it. They see the truth that kind of like my dream couldn't come into reality with them anyway, because what drove and motivated us and what our truth is and what we think is just and fair and what our long-term goals are different. But the shadowy people could definitely stay in their ego about it if people chose to get out of some shadowy ways of thinking or believing or habits or patterns, or being more indulgent of people or more about the world or more superficial or shallow. And you're going to go kind of on an adventure. Aries energy is represented by the Fool card. And that you've gotten over, kind of wrapped your brain around some past pain and heartbreak, learned to love and believe in yourself, and you're moving forward in life differently. And while you move forward in life differently, some other people, because the truth sets us free, and some people kind of could have started to do the work, but we can all give up on continuing to do the work, right? Because there could be some truths in our philosophy of life or our way of being that we don't want to see the truth of. And maybe there's some, we reject our loving ourselves. We still haven't healed from people in our past that we had hoped were more just and fair and balanced and loving, and we're still haven't worked through it, don't want to see the truth of it. That could be something that people kind of keep buried deep in their foundation. They might not even be aware of how some past pain and heartbreak or feelings of rejection could influence them. But that is kind of something they are not willing to kind of explore. And because of that, they don't see the truth. And they'll kind of reject a more just, fair, stable, balanced, loving relationship, even for some of them that are loving, just because there's something kind of buried in them and they kind of got to go another round. And maybe a few more rounds of repeating a pattern until they get inspired to do that work within themselves, to love and believe in themselves, and that they do deserve justice and fairness. And then when they do that work within themselves, then they have wrapped their brain around it. They are operating now from a different foundation, a different way of viewing themselves, a different way of viewing the world, a different way of viewing what they think is just and fair. And if other people do that, then they'll be done healing and learning the lesson. But we'll keep repeating a pattern either until we make the free will choice to do this work within ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be drawn and attracted to people that come into our life. It's like, so you don't want to do that? Okay, well, is this what you want to manifest? And they repeat the pattern again. And until, if they decide, yep, that's my truth, then they'll keep living their life like that. If there's things about it that it's like, wait a minute, you know? And again, more shadowy energy could be that people are more immature. People don't connect in with their more creative, inspired, intuitive nature and focus more on the things of the world or their ego or their image and trying to look a certain way in the world to try to get people to view them a certain way in the world. And they put a lot of work and effort into that because that's what's really important to them. But it's not really being more balanced between I want these certain things of the world, but I also want to be true to myself and be in more authentic and loving relationships where some people would maybe be willing to sacrifice those things because just what more drives and motivates them is to have this certain status and image in the world and have people view them a certain way. And even if that's kind of living a false life, because of this maybe want to belong or be part of a certain environment, for whatever reason drives them at a core foundational level until some things happen to make them see that it is kind of out of balance. And if they decide they don't like that, they're going to keep doing it. So, what's coming up for people who might harness a more high vibrational Aries energy, who've done some inner work? I would say the people in their life who they do feel work together with them in this way, with this card kind of reminding me of the Four of Cups. Um, you know, we can't have this and that. And the people who want this and that, they probably had some people leave their life and not willing to be in a relationship with them anymore. You know, we have to make choices in our life. We have free will. And some things have to be and accept that those will be a missed opportunity. Some people are rejecting love. Nope, I'm more inspired by the world. That's my truth. Other people are like, I'm not going to miss an opportunity in love. I mean, it has to be just and fair and balanced. It's not just, oh my gosh, but I love them. And it's completely out of balance. No, it has to be just and fair. People have to act with character and integrity. But it's just like I can have a job where I do the same thing at this job as I would do at that job, but being with these people I don't really enjoy, and being with those people I do enjoy, and trying to decide, you know, and then in our worldly nature we can kind of be tempted, needless, to keep doing things the way we've been doing it. Just, you know, because everything that we've already put work and effort into, we'd really like those things to work. But if some of the people we're working with, we kind of have a different philosophy of life, they might not be as balanced or wanting to be more just and fair. You know, we need to deal with the truth of that too. And, you know, a thing of what's more important. And some people are willing to give up love, and some people, I don't care what they offer me here, I'm not staying. You know, there is no justice here, there is no healing, there is no peace. Um, People are immature, people are manipulative, people are whatever. No, there's got, and I think living in a world of duality, if people are creating a little hell on earth, that means high vibe energy is creating a little heaven on earth. But we have the free will to stay where people are creating a little hell on earth, and we can create a little hell on earth within ourselves, reject our own loving nature, be more immature, be more self-indulgent. We'd probably do it because we're sure we're going to be happy. And then it probably works out that because we didn't kind of act with some character and integrity or got in relationships with people who didn't. We didn't get the justice we thought we were going to get. And if we're willing to see the truth of it, we kind of grow up and mature ourselves and decide, I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm going to live my life differently. Make different decisions in my life. Aries is also represented by the Emperor, which is in high vibe about learning lessons, being a good leader in your own life, being a good example in the world, leading people as an example of walking the talk, being more inspired by a higher truth and justice than just what the world tries to tell us we should make our life about. And other people are going to be the opposite of that. They think they are the boss, people should follow them, but it's not really truth and love that they use to try to get people to align with them. It's kind of manipulating them, tempting them, you know, in their fear or their insecurity or their codependency or their immaturity or something or materialistic nature. You know, what's your truth and what's the truth of some other people, you know? What's coming up for the high vibe people that they don't see coming? The world. Why? Because of the Seven of Swords. So the World card talks about closing out a chapter. Learning, when we learn the lessons we are meant to learn at a phase of life, we learn the lesson, we incorporate that truth that we learned into our philosophy of life moving forward. And then we move forward in life differently. And we kind of see what we no longer, at one time we could have thought a certain way of living life and viewing life and all those things were just and fair. And then, you know, it's just like staying in a phase of life too long. Was it just and fair to take action in a certain way in your life? Like at a certain age? Yeah, that was the age you were at. And it was the emotional maturity level you were at. To keep staying in that phase of life forever? No. Then that's then when you reject your more hopeful, believing, loving nature out of maybe your fear and your insecurity and your pride and your ego. Other people worked through it. They worked through the Seven of Swords is Aquarius energy. The fives and the seven talk about those challenging times in our life. Am I going to, if you're Seven of Swords up in your head, there's a maximum of 10. Am I going to be operating and putting work and effort to bring a dream into reality, operating from a foundation of the Three of Cups from love, or more being emotionally manipulated by the world, by other people, by my ego, by my fear? And we had people that we probably thought a dream could come into reality with, and could have been moving forward with them. And somewhere along the way, we could have gotten down to that core truth of kind of what drives and motivates, why people want to be in a relationship or friendship or have you stay, why you want to stay. And high vibe people could have realized they were being, either their emotionally loving nature was being abused and manipulated by people, and they needed to stand up for truth and justice and fairness. And if those people weren't willing to do that, they worked through the mental confusion of it, that people who they thought would be more just and fair weren't. And feeling they were being deceptive and manipulative or trying to manipulate you. And you saw the truth of it. You did work through your fears and insecurities to believe in yourself, to listen to your intuition. And because you did that, what you don't see coming is that eventually you will work through those last three swords, which is also Libra energy, of something that you thought was just and fair at one point in time, not seeing it as just and fair. And sometimes there's people that we had wanted to be in a relationship with, and we really would have thought, oh my gosh, that's what I really want to do. That relationship doesn't work out. We get in relationships with other people, and it can cause some conflict. Maybe the other person Sagittarius energy relocation can talk about communicating with people, that I've moved on from one thing, and now Virgo energy can represent that people are single and they would like justice, and they're looking for people who are more on the same page as them. And some people might realize that, there was a part of me that at one time I would have wanted to heal a relationship with those people, but I'm not the same person I was before, and I've healed and grown and matured. And maybe while they were repeating an old pattern, it kind of showed that we weren't on the same page then. And then while they were repeating that pattern, I moved on with some other people, and I'm not the person I was when they went to go repeat that past pattern. And it can be a little difficult, but, the high vibe people listen to their intuition. And if the people I'm currently moving forward with, I realize aren't the people I should be moving forward with, then I'm not going to keep moving forward in that way in my life. And I might take this time to do this inner work, to work through, to get clear about what my truth is. I don't want to live my life in a way that's not aligned with my truth. And you'll work through those last 3 swords to close out a cycle. And some people have already completed one cycle, and they're could have communicated with people, could have gotten new relationships, new jobs, and they're already moving on to another one, or another phase, learn some more lessons, and they're continuing to move forward. But they're listening to their intuition and looking at life from a higher perspective and keeping life in perspective instead of being tempted to reject believing in themselves and believing in their dreams and going back and repeating an old pattern. Living your more authentic truth in the world. And I think because of that, it'll clear up any confusion that you had, because when you close out a cycle, you come out with the new beginning. And I also think when people act in their truth and with character and integrity and, just not being more immature or self-indulgent, people see the truth of it. And I think the world will see that you are who you say you are. You had your own lessons learned just like everyone else did, but you've come out the other side healed. And they could see that some other people were being deceptive and manipulative, trying to create the illusion maybe that they were the more emotionally stable, grounded, mature, healed, just fair person, but they weren't. So, but high vibe people, it's not their concern. That's for those people to deal with and come to their own conclusion. Whatever will be based on the type of people they are. I'm not going to stay up in my head about it. So the world can be closing a cycle of being up in your head about it, because you're going to just keep moving forward, living your truth, and everybody else is going to think or feel or act based on their truth. And seeing that maybe a lot of people in the world are really deceived and manipulated by things in their past, by other people in their life, by their ego, by their immature nature, by their self-indulgent nature, and knowing that those people think they're going to get justice, but if you're not taking action and being authentic and truthful and just and fair, I don't think it's going to work out the way they think it's going to work out. And you might see that, it's just like if you know people, there's like, oh my goodness, they are definitely running their life into the ditch, but they don't see it. Just like when we have done that in our life, other people are like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to kind of distance myself from these people because they think they are like living the dream and they do not see that they are headed for a fall. But everybody's got to live and learn, right? Okay, what's coming up for people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Aries energy that they don't see coming up? The Ten of Swords and the Lover's card. Why? Because of the Eight of Wands. So, the Eight of Wands, like kind of this relocation and kind of the exercise card, was reminding me of Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius in shadow can just be that people are on their own journey and have some lessons to learn, and they still might be kind of immature. And because of that, they could have other people that harness Aries, Sagittarius, Virgo, Libra, Aquarius, whatever, in a more high vibrational way. So they are more inspired by love. They have put an end to their more immature nature, the high vibe people in their life, and detach from old relationships, and they are ready to move forward in love. But the more worldly, shadowy people aren't. I just kind of want to indulge myself in a relationship. I might create the illusion that I'm willing to bring a dream into reality based on truth and love and justice and fairness. But really, I kind of harness my fire sign and my Taurus energy and these other zodiac signs in a more shadowy way. And it is kind of more like indulging themselves in it so long as it works for them. But if the other people start to see through the illusion and they're ready to move forward to kind of bring the dream into reality, that's when they end the relationship, because they aren't willing to indulge them anymore and kind of backstab themselves to stay in a relationship with these more shadowy people. And so, if people are immature or bossy or controlling or unjust, unfair, they think that's just and fair. They rationalize it within themselves. They might reject love. They don't want to do love. Let's just be in a relationship, enjoy the relationship as long as it works out for us and everything's going okay. Let's just do that. But I don't really want to do love, and I don't want to take more creative, inspired action in my life and step out of my comfort zone. I want to keep repeating this pattern. I like this. Let's keep doing this. Well, it's kind of like people who want to stay in a time warp or whatever, and they don't keep growing and healing and maturing themselves and believing in themselves and like growing to their full potential. Sagittarius is fire sign energy too, but Aries is where you've kind of learned all these lessons and kind of grow up and mature yourself. And some people are like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't mind being more immature and doing life the way I do it. But other people don't want to keep being more immature. And they are motivated and inspired to keep believing in their dreams and keep growing and maturing themselves and closing out old phases and cycles of life to go to the next phase of life. And the other people are like, oh, well, then the relationship's over. Because, yeah, I'm not doing that. I want to stay here and do this again. And so what they don't see coming is that some of the high vibe people in their life are going to move on. And they're going to quit moving forward with them in love. They don't think it's just and fair, or it's gotten out of balance somehow. And they could feel like they're missing an opportunity in love. And they did this work to believe in themselves that I'm not going to keep staying in this job, this friendship, or this relationship. I have done everything I can. And they keep rejecting being inspired more by love and being loving. Both the Ten of Swords and the Lover's card are Gemini energy, which is our dualistic nature of free will of what our truth is. The Lover's card, though, is also Virgo energy. Isn't it? Maybe it's not. Maybe that's the Magician. But it's like, you just see other people's truth is different. What drives them motivates them. It isn't maybe a more mature, stable, grounded, loving, balanced relationship. It might be let's be more immature. Let's be more impulsive. Let's just go indulge in this. And, you know, that can be fun for a while. But anyway, they're going to have some high vibe people move on. And they probably didn't see that coming because the high vibe people in their life have been high vibe people put in a lot of work and effort to try to make things work and to bring justice to a situation. But eventually, enough is enough. And they're kind of not inspired to stay in the relationship anymore because they feel like maybe they are the only ones putting in the work and effort. People could communicate to people that, it's not that they really love them, but they'd want to stay in the relationship with them. And other people are like, no, I'm not going to stay in it. If you don't love me, you don't love me. And I'm going to believe in my dreams and move on. And they're aligning with their more immature, shadowy nature, not choosing to align with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And our shadow nature, the big picture represented by the devil, loves it when we align with our more worldly, immature nature. You don't have to do that. You don't have to grow and heal and mature yourself. You don't have to act with character and integrity. You can just act like you do and then go do all these things instead. And indulge yourself. It'll all be fine. Well, the devil lies. The devil didn't have your best interest at heart. Some people did go indulge in something and they got backstabbed. Some people are going to get backstabbed because they're not listening to their intuition. When we're in more shadowy energy, we're in relationships with people who are in more shadowy energy. And if they're not in it for love and we're in it for more codependent reasons, it's one thing to be a loving person who might be kind of codependent and have your fear and your insecurities. You still can be motivated to put work and effort into the relationship. But if someone wasn't someone who ever really planned to put more work and effort into a relationship, they wanted to rest within a relationship and not really be required to more emotionally invest in it, to be in it maybe more for the stability or the security, or until they heal from whatever was going on, then they're kind of ready to move forward. And sometimes we get in relationships like that where we could have been a stable and supportive and encouraging person for each other in friendships and romantic relationships. But then, when everyone has kind of gotten more recovered from whatever they needed to heal from, then it can be where people kind of realize, I think how we want to move forward now is different because really we were kind of mismatched from the beginning, but we both needed a place to heal within. And the truth is we're kind of driven and motivated by different things. And so then some relationships could end. But for the people who don't want to do love, are more about themselves or things of the world, they're going to find other people who will move forward with them in a relationship. It's just that the people who will end up staying in a relationship with them, some of those people, it might be just because they have their own fears and insecurities about love or loving themselves. Just so long as they're more on the same page, that would be a more just and fair relationship. But the more shadowy they are, it's possible they could get in a relationship with someone who's equally as shadowy and kind of equally as immature, who's also more motivated by these things they indulge in, or the ego or the image. And it won't really be a relationship based on truth and love. It's more out of the fact that I want to stay in my comfort zone. I want to indulge in these things. I make these things more important. And while they do that, they are going to see other people moving forward in relationships that are very loving and encouraging and supportive. And they had the free will to choose to align with that energy within themselves to be in those kind of relationships. But because they had some growing up to do, they could have backstabbed and not aligned with their more loving nature because they thought they'd be happy being more, maybe being a player. And I think at some future point in time, they'll realize that they kind of deceived themselves and backstabbed themselves. And sometimes shadowy people think other people, because they're loving and encouraging, they won't like love and believe in themselves or be willing to give up on this dream. But some of the high vibe people in their life will. I can have people in my life that I love, from friends or family or whoever, that I can love you. Do I want to hang out with you that much? No. You know? And if I've come to see, if it's a more romantic interest and people are backstabbing or hurtful or unjust and unfair, yeah, no. That might be your idea of what you think is just and fair. It's not my idea. And can I still have love for people? Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to move forward with you, and I don't view you as a choice in love, because I don't really think you're aligned with love. I think, so that's where people can love people, but I don't think you're aligned with love. So yeah, no. And because the people are inspired by love and love of themselves, Aries energy is about the self, they're not willing to keep moving forward with people who are unjust and unfair and unloving. And eventually they move on. And the people who might keep moving forward with them are other people who maybe really don't do love, but willing to indulge each other in a relationship because they don't want to do love. And if they get along well enough and it looks good for their ego and their image, they'll stay in it. And high vibe people, as they move forward in the world and they make offers to people and communicate to people, if other people are like, nope, that's not my truth, or I'm already in a relationship, the high vibe people don't stay in their ego about it. They see the truth of it, deal with the truth of it, and it's like, apparently God must have a different plan for my life, so I'm going to move on. But other people who go out and try to, can get really caught up in it throwing them out of balance, and then it kind of consumes them. And it's like, I'm not going to let it consume me. I'm going to keep going with the flow, believing the divine has a plan for my life, and I'm going to keep listening to love and intuition to guide me. I'm not going to put an end to aligning with my more hopeful, believing, creative, inspired nature. And other people see the truth of the people who don't, and they see the people who choose not to give up on love and go indulge themselves in a relationship just to be in a relationship, and other people see the truth of it, and it's like, hey, you're the kind of person I want to be in a relationship with. So there you go, Aries. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.